Hello, welcome to Ball Street and welcome to the Social Club. We are live. We're here to prove that we don't just get here every Monday to get Ped on to slag off Newcastle. We do more things
West Ham as well.
I'm West Ham. Oh, sorry, of course, I'm West Ham.
I'm my sweater normally.
So we're doing a bit of a special show using the hashtag Club Together under this general notion that fans across football can put aside their differences about their particular clubs to look at the bigger issues surrounding the fact that Chris can't turn audio off on his laptop.
We're live!
So yeah, what we want, if you and the general tone, it sounds like a bit of a general negative title, but what's wrong with modern football? But what we want is the things that affect you as fans across football, whether it's the big issues like ticket prices to the small annoyances that you face on a day-to-day basis, and then obviously we want to get to a position where we can see what the things are that bother people across football, and maybe something we've discussed is that we can look to do something about it. We don't just want to talk about things and point at miserable things. We'd like to get to the stage where we can, take some action in certain circumstances.
Yeah, I think we're never better placed in order to make a difference in football. And the fact that we've come together as, supporters of different clubs, but are willing to talk about some of the issues that affect all supporters on match day and outside of match day is a positive thing. And I think if we don't use Ball Street as a platform to make positive difference in football, then I'm not sure what we're doing here.
Absolutely. So you can keep your suggestions coming in via the comment section or by tweeting in at Ball Street as well on Twitter. Mr. Chris Pajak from the Redmen TV is over on the social media. Hi Chris.
Hiya.
You okay?
I'm great.
Great. Are you going to have some interesting stuff lined up?
I've got one lined up already.
Go on, chuck it in then.
So what's wrong with modern football? Dave Bowerman, Arsenal. There, what's wrong with modern football? Discuss.
Ask him to elaborate on what he feels about Arsenal is particularly wrong with modern football.
I agree with him.
Funny enough, Flav would agree with it. Go on, Flav. What? Go on.
He just heard the Arsenal bit.
Yeah. Pay attention to the rest. You're not really going to.
Let me come back to that.
So what, to get the ball rolling?
Yeah, I've got a really good one to get the ball rolling. Genuine one. Dr. Dren. The game has become bombarded with cash. The root of football sometimes gets lost. Premier League having so much influence, a prime example.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it sounds like an obvious one, but I think we all see it. And is it maybe a bit of an obvious one, Pep? But the fact that there is so much money at the top end of the game now, that football is naturally moving away from the people that made football in the first place.
Yeah, we've always said, or we used to say, footballers used to go on the bus with the fans and all that. That to me is a bit weird. But I generally do think that's a bit weird. I think footballers should be heroes, should be put on a pedestal. But I think what we've seen in the last few years is them just completely go away. And it's not just the top ones, it's the very, very average ones who you see making a very nice living off doing very, very little and having very little talent. They've just been in the right place at the right time. So I think that's one thing that bugs a lot of people is they just see players and they just go, "You are crap. You don't put any effort in.
You earn more money in a
week
than I earn in a year."
It's not just that. It's not I don't think it's a jealousy factor. It's just that you earn more than you should earn. Players at the very, very top who are outstanding footballers, who've got all this talent. Yes, I think they do deserve a lot of money. But it's when you see those players at the bottom, or 17 and 18-year-olds driving around in big, massive cars who haven't earned it. I think that really annoys people, and then you end up putting them all in the same boat then, and just going, footballers don't earn it. And what about those poor nurses?
Football's always been a place where people whinge and complain, and booing isn't a new thing of football. It isn't. And some would argue that you have a right to boo a team full of professionals that clearly isn't trying as hard as they might do. But I think there's definitely been a rise in discontent in football stadiums, whether it be towards the game itself, as we saw on walkout on 77, but generally this isn't a partisanship thing, Robbie, but the booing at Arsenal is people know about it. They know about it as a thing, and I think that isn't because Arsenal fans are poor supporters. Some might argue that you are, but the reason is the amount of money you have to pay to go, and why shouldn't you be able to voice your annoyance or anger at these players who, in your opinion, as a paying customer to your football club, aren't trying hard enough? Football fans are the worst worst treated consumers of any industry on earth, and yet we come flooding back because they exploit how much we love our football clubs.
But it's exactly, you were joking with the nurses thing, but it's the same thing, isn't it? It's like if you find a group of people who can't stop doing what they do, you know what I mean? Because it's such an intrinsic part of them, and then you basically abuse them for all you can. You get as much money out of them as you possibly can because you know they'll do it anyway. Exactly. So I think
the thing is though, you know, with me, I'm slightly different on it in that I don't mind the players getting a lot of money, because I think if there's a lot of money in the game, right? There's a lot of money from TV and that. They should be rewarded. They are the ones that we're going to watch. But what needs to happen is that also needs to filter down to the fans. Fans need to be rewarded as well for their loyalty. In that the prices, I really don't think fans would have a problem with the big money that players are on if we were able to get in at a decent price to watch games. Because you know what, football's not the only sport. Let's have it right. You look at something like golf, and you look at some of these guys and the money they're getting, and nobody ever complains about the money they're getting. You look at motor racing, the money, average drivers who are never ever going to win a race, and they're earning millions upon millions. But what I hate is the fact that why, when there's so much money in the game, do these clubs have to kill the fans? You know what I mean? That's especially young fans.
Yeah, that's the double edge. You know? That's the double-edged sword to it, isn't it? It's far. In one end, you can go, it's hard to justify the money being spent at the top end of the game when at one end you've got these guys who you perceive to be not actually that good at what they're doing anyway. You don't mind it when it's the ultra players who go out and they literally bleed for the team on the pitch. You kind of go, well, you know what, God, give him all the money, give him everyone's wages this week because he's gone and done the job. But then at the other end, when you can't even afford to get in the ground anymore.
That's where I slightly disagree with you, because motor racing, there's 24 drivers. Golf, there's I don't know how many but football,
there's presumably like 6 or 7 golfers.
Yeah, there's like 8 golfers. I don't know. They all wear basically what Flav's got on. But I think football.
You're like ghetto golfing, like.
It's that new football golf thing. That's what he's going for. This is the style. It's with football. There are the very best. I think do deserve the money, but it's as it filters down. It's just when you see the really, really poor. But as we've just showed there, one thing flows into the next. You know, you bring up one thing and then everything trickles down. They're all interconnected. Everything will be interconnected. I mean, there's another thing that really annoys me, but I'll save it for now. But it leads into the whole Arsenal thing with the fans. You know, it's people criticising fans for criticising teams. You know, that goes on all the time as well. So
there's this thing with Man City, you get it, especially because their success has been so meteoric. But that people like dig them out for not filling their stadium when they've got to pay 60 quid to go and watch them. Yeah, they shouldn't be saying, "Look how rubbish that support is." They should be saying, "How much are they having to pay to not fill
it's that thing, isn't it? Because the mad thing about Man City, I don't fully agree, because I think it annoys me when you see clubs who've been handed too much too soon because they've not organically earned that fan base to fill that stadium to some extent. But it's that way. It goes. It's not the guys who go every week who were playing probably £10 a ticket in the 3rd division 10, 15 years ago or whatever, and they stuck with it all that time. Then all of a sudden, you're talking about every game's a Category A game and every match costs £60 to go to. That's not your fault that you can't afford to go to football anymore. That's football's fault. Anyway, we'll move it on. Thanks for... Who was that comment from? Sorry, Chris? Yeah, him. Thanks. There's one I want to move it on for. If you just joined us, welcome to Social Club Live. We're discussing the things that are wrong with football, the things that do your head in. One I want to throw out there, just to lighten the tone for a minute. Michael Owen's commentary. Why is he a commentator? Anyone?
I don't know.
Anyone? No one.
He's dreadful.
Pet, you've normally got an opinion on most things, whether you should have one or not.
Because he doesn't offend anyone. Which is
No.
Which is another thing that is wrong with the game.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone, and this is why we and this format is becoming more and more powerful, is because ex-players, and this is what I wanted to drive on before, ex-players are just bad tits, right? How dare, and I know he's a legend, but how dare Ian Wright criticise your fans for having an opinion about just because it's different from theirs? Do you see a game where, okay, they've just beaten Hull, just beaten Hull, 3 days later, 4 days later, you get beaten home by Watford. And it's this idea, and you did it last week at Goodison, you just had a great win, but your fans were still having a go at the ownership. And come, win, loss, whatever, that's great. They should be able to. But it's when the ex-players go, oh, how dare they? And I've had this before. It's when it's you hear ex-players always backing other ex-players. So it's like, oh well, he's unhappy now. So that club should sell him. Why? Just because you were an ex-player and you were in the same boat. Why? We had it with John Stones. Oh, they should let him go. He's unhappy. Why? Yeah. Oh well, his form will do. No, won't. He'll just play because he's a professional footballer. They are the biggest pains in the arses in football, as far as I can see, because it's like one little club, and they will never ever say anything offensive. And when they do, suddenly the hushed, sideways. Yeah. Stan Collymore a good one. Whether you like him or not, he's got an opinion. Yeah. At least he's got an opinion. I think.
Well, hang on, Robbie Savage has got an opinion.
No, it's just a tit.
Actually, just know people's thoughts on Michael Owen's commentary. Is he the worst co-commentator in the history of football?
He just says that the thing is about his commentary is that some of the things he says...
Yes, by the way, but in the comments.
It's so obvious. I mean, it's just...
he made me laugh the other day.
He's dreadful.
Sorry, just jumping in. Great to see England win. First time in Germany, and he had the picture of his boots and the shirt. I was like, it's not the first time they've won since you won 5-1. They won in 2008. 2-1.
So in your face, showing your bad tits.
Yeah, stick to your horses, you knob.
Flav, what do you think of Michael Owen? No opinion?
Indifferent, insipid, got nothing to say.
Chris?
Michael Owen? No, not for me.
But he's one of your heroes, though, surely?
There are some commentators out there that are good at the jobs. Gary Neville was a prime example of that. Yeah. Someone that I hated throughout his entire career. Stepped onto the telly, and was absolutely brilliant because he's got a knowledge of the game.
Well, you've been going on about...
He's got an opinion.
Fletcher and McManaman.
Fletcher and McManaman, they're the only two that don't annoy the living daylights out of me. I actually really enjoy when they're commentating on a Liverpool game. Look, I love watching Paul Scholes talk about United because he knows about that football club. But it's about getting the right person commentating on the right type of game. So when you're talking Paul Scholes and Man United, brilliant. Don't want to hear Paul Scholes talk about Liverpool? No. I want to hear a Liverpool player,
what one of the big problems is, though? Some of the names you just mentioned there are prime candidates. Paul Scholes, no one can question his opinion at Man United. No one can look him out at Man United. No, if he wants... We've got this problem in football, right, where football clubs are getting so media savvy that they are stopping people from coming in. Liverpool had, I think, a few years ago, it was one of the first ones. I think they banned Ian St John for having an opinion. Houllier stopped him from coming in. It happens at Everton. It happens at Everton now. People will not say anything bad about them because they're afraid that suddenly their tickets will be stopped.
Absolutely.
We've got 3 ambassadors of our club. 3 ambassadors. And their job is to basically...
Who are Everton's ambassadors?
Graham Sharp, Ian Snowden and Graham Stewart.
That's technically 2 you've done there.
I know, well, look, I've got an imaginary finger. I only count 2 of them. There was rumours that someone else wanted the job and wasn't given the job, who had a lot more sort of... Well, let's just say he's the most successful captain Everton have ever had. But because he's got an opinion, he was stopped from having it. Yeah. Because they've got to toe the party line. And that we're getting too much of that in football as well. So the likes of Carragher, who can say whatever he wants about Liverpool because he's a legend. The likes of Scholes can say whatever he wants about Manchester United. Steve McManaman, because obviously he's such a big Evertonian. They can have their opinions because they're not bigger than the clubs, obviously, but they can go back to the clubs and no one can shut the door in the face.
I'll tell you who we've got who's got to be the most opinionated pundit is Paul Merson.
He's another one. He's another tit.
But he's not scared to say what he thinks, and I respect him for that still. Yeah. I respect. Listen, I don't always agree with the stuff he says. I don't agree with it, but I respect the fact, like you said about Stan Collymore. I respect Stan Collymore because he says it how he sees it.
You know what? I never thought I'd say this about Stan Collymore, but when he was at the FBA Awards. The fact that he turned up and he learned the names of everyone else who was in the same category as him, didn't need to do that. He just needed to rock up, be Stan Collymore, pose for a few selfies and go home. Did that. And I actually thought, and I liked him more prior to it, was John Barnes. I had more respect for John Barnes than Stan Collymore, having then put them both in the same room. Collymore came out on top because at least he takes it.
Well, who ended up being the one who looked like he was there for the money? The one who rapped, obviously.
The one who rapped, yeah.
But the thing about Collymore is he's already crossed over the line. I think last year he had a problem. BT were going to bring him on, and then something came out in the paper, and then suddenly they didn't want to use him. So it's almost like he's already gone past the point. So now he'll just say, "I'll say what I want. Absolutely. I'll say what I want."
Chris, have you got any you'd like to throw in?
I've got one on Twitter actually that was quite good. Aaron Poulin at Poulin05 just said diving. And it's something that's crept into the game over the last few weeks.
No, I'm gonna.
Weeks.
Last few weeks, diving's really got on.
Oh, big time, like, yeah. I'm going to throw it out there and say, and it's going to make me sound like the most anti-football against modern football. I don't mind diving too much, if I'm perfectly honest. And let me explain why.
There's a Liverpool player died a couple of weeks ago.
Who? Exactly. I knew he was. No, I think when you feign it, I think feigning injury is wrong. And I think like when you go down like someone touches you on your chest and you go down like you've been shot in the face, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. But when it's and I think diving's a weird term, but I use a great example of it. Didier Drogba at Chelsea, the way he dived and the way Suarez does it as well, and you do it as a tactical tool to get yourself up the pitch, get yourself free kicks in dangerous areas.
You be real.
Absolutely serious.
You actually.
Yeah, absolutely serious.
I'm with that guy there.
Well, this is why you haven't won a European Cup.
I absolutely hate it. This, I mean, it is one of the problems of modern football. This thing nowadays. Oh, there was a bit of contact, so he went down. I hate it. That is not.
But
it's cheating.
Arsenal are too nice, and Liverpool are too nice.
Yeah, we're too nice. But you know what? Let's have it right. Forget club loyalties for right now. It's cheating. It's cheating. Let's just oh, there was a bit of contact. Oh, he went.
Well, who does that go back to, Robbie?
Cheating.
But who does it go back to? Like you
they need to do something about it.
But who does it go back to? It goes back to the people who were in the studio who go, oh well, he was entitled. He was entitled to go down. It's
Alan Shearer's always saying that.
Housewives special. Jamie Redknapp.
It's cheating. If we go into the Euros, right, and we go out because of that, all of us.
What if we win because of that? What if we win?
We won't say anything.
No, but this is my exact point.
It needs to be eradicated from the game.
I'm sorry, it's bollocks. Like I agree with it on a moral standpoint. Yeah, it's lovely. Let's get diving out. But you know what? And it comes back to England, and I can't believe I'm getting angry about the subject about England. But you know what? Why England make mistakes is because they're nasty in the wrong. They're not nasty in the right way. They're nasty in like a bitchy way, like David Beckham sticking a little foot up and catching players when he should just get up and smack them. If you're gonna get sent off, lamp someone in the face, But if you're gonna dive, win a penalty and get your team in. Look, again, it comes back to it. Look, Istanbul. I can come back to it.
Gerrard diving.
Gerrard goes straight through, gets the penalty, and it gets Liverpool back on.
Always comes back to Istanbul.
Yeah, here's a good one from Callum Randall.
Go on, sorry.
Callum Randall, hello Cal. Since when could you win a penalty? Surely you're awarded one. No player should be looking for contact to gain advantage.
Exactly, 100.
If the rules allow it to happen, if there is a possibility for a referee to be duped and win a penalty, because that's what it is, if there is no foul, it is winning a penalty, then the players will do it. It doesn't matter whether it's ethically sound or not.
Retrospective punishment, I think some form of retrospective punishment
needs
to be brought in so that they can look at it the next week and say, you know what, obviously that guy...
Our teams are going to continue to fail in Europe
hold on a second.
And in major tournaments if they don't start being canny on the pitch.
Hold on a second. Retrospective punishment. We're talking about modern football, one of the problems with it. This is one major one that guy's brought up there. Yeah. Right? Retrospective, you look at it, actually, you know what? Yeah, you won the game. We can't change the result, but you definitely dived there. You're banned for 4 games.
Can I just say what I blame
I'd love
for
that
it?
to come in. I would love that to come in.
I blame Newcastle United for signing David Ginola.
I blame Spurs for signing
Klinsmann?
Jürgen Klinsmann.
Can we just blame Newcastle?
He made a celebration. It was such a thing that he made his celebration thing because it was so cliche.
But you know what? Let's stop blaming.
Right, he had a Beatle
let's stop blaming foreign players now, because you know what? The English players are doing it just the same now.
Good.
Right? And it's wrong.
I hate it. You're dead right in that. If someone does it against us, I'm livid. But also, I can say I've seen the advantage of doing it, and I'm so sick of. Again, let's go on to the continent where the physical brand of football that you play in the Premier League doesn't work in Europe. You can't do that because the referees punish you for every single touch. And if teams want to win European trophies and England want to succeed in major tournaments. Mate, do whatever you take and let the rest.
That's not the game I want to watch.
No one will remember you died for something when you come away with a trophy.
That's not the game I want to watch, man. I don't want to watch cheats playing. I mean, I want to watch a fair game. Right?
I didn't think I was coming into this show advocating cheating, but there you go.
This is the second time the week that I've seen Rob ready to blow as well. I was uncomfortable the first time. I'm really uncomfortable now.
Because you know what, the cheating angers me. Listen, we've all had We had players, even Robert Perez, right? You never used to have
Perez
to touch
was the
him
worst.
too much and he'd go down. But I don't like it.
Rob,
I
this
don't
is
like
what
it.
happens when your role models
you
are
were
Steven
winners then,
Gerrard and
Rob.
Suarez. That's what happens, mate.
No,
Yeah,
but
well, that's it.
but what-
It looks
but
like
what's
now
that-
they're trying to defend it.
Well, what's happened since Robert Perez left you? What have you done since then?
No, but we.
None. You've won 2 FA Cups.
So
Good on
diving
you.
is the answer.
Diving, it might well be the answer.
Depends
All
what-
I'm saying is that you
I
haven't won a
don't
single
want it,
thing
I
since
don't.
Robert Perez stopped diving for you.
I hate it.
Is
I
there a
hate it.
direct correlation? Maybe not. I've not done the evidence. I've not got any evidence.
Back in the
I've basically
day-
just made it up on the spot.
Back in the day,
Um,
diving used to be looked down upon, and that is what that guy just said there. He's 100% right. That is one of the
But it goes-
big problems
it
with
goes
modern
back
day
to what we're
football,
told, though. It
that
goes
we have
back-
now accepted cheating as part of the game.
Because people on telly keep on telling people it's all right because they're entitled to go down.
What's your opinion
It's
on
Jamie
it, Chris?
Redknapp's fault.
I don't really want to get into the middle of this, but to be fair, if I'm thrust into the middle of it, then I like to see it. I like to see a little bit of gamesmanship now and then. I'd do anything to win on a football field, and I would expect every Liverpool
So if
player to do the same.
If your son, right, my son plays football, if I saw him diving, I'd say I'd go mad.
That's the big problem.
Right.
Our kids now.
Right,
You
it's-
see
and I see
Now,
it.
but I
and
used to
I
practice
see it in
diving
kids.
when we were-
I see
when
it
we
in kids football. I see my son was playing
the
against
God?
a team the other day, and there was
I've-
some
with
kid.
Evertonians?
There was this kid. He must have dived about 3 times until his coach had to pull him off the pitch. His coach was actually his dad as well. pull him off the pitch, right?
Took his
and-
pocket money away.
and like reprimand him, but he's watching the players, the main players doing
See,
it.
that's the difference,
It's
isn't
disgusting.
it? We used to practice kicking people, and now they're practicing diving. That's
Well,
the
all of
difference
that.
in
I
the
think the thing-
generations.
I think the thing for me is, honestly, right, I don't think we're ever going to be able to get it out of the game, so embrace it. I think if there was a way to actually get it out of the
Are
game
you
properly...
serious? Embrace it.
No, I'm saying it's not going to get put out of the game. No one's going to do that.
Retrospective
Referees aren't...
punishment.
Yeah, that's it.
Retrospective punishment
What
doesn't
is the
work
biggest
because you
game?
can't prove when someone's died.
You can't.
Well,
You
if
can't,
I
not
say
even with
again,
slow
we're
motion or
all
anything like that.
bemoaning the lack of European coefficient when we've got 2 teams left in European tournaments because we haven't done a single thing because no one on the continent.
The only way we're going to win it is by diving.
I think the rules are being set by teams outside of England. I think we're very
all
interesting.
be
Everyone's
playing
got this stiff upper lip. Football should be this and this and this. Sorry, but if I agree exactly what Chris has said there. I think if there's a way to win, you should use that way to win and worry about the rest.
Just as a caveat to that and kind of support Robbie a little bit, right? What's the biggest game in the club calendar in Europe?
Liverpool, Man United.
Other than that,
The El Clasico.
El
Divico, should you call it?
El Clasico. It is horrendous. No doubt, amazing football being played. But if that was my team, I'm not sure how happy I would be. And the people are going, "What? You wouldn't want Real Madrid?"
It's a cultural thing, though, isn't it? You know, we've got this rose-tinted view of what football should be, and it should be real men, you know, getting stuck in but fair, and not, you know what I mean, and not
Every
bending the
sport
rules.
should be
and blah, blah.
fair. Every sport should be fair.
But shouldn't we maintain that a little bit? That like saying this is the right way to play football.
Yeah, I get
But
it.
then
And-
if the right way is losing, then maybe it ain't the right way.
Well, exactly. But this is my point, isn't it? Is that you know what we're seeing.
So
is
should they all be
British-
on steads as well?
That's a good point. If everyone on the continent is, yes.
I thought it was called PEDs. Which is,
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Gets very confusing on Twitter.
I can't help
Can
but
I
feel-
wrap this one
I
up?
can't feel that I'm going to come off. I don't feel like I've come off well in this one somehow. If I'm going to be honest. Go on,
Oh, well, all right, I'll end it on that one then. Hang on one second. Boo Boo Majubu.
Hey.
Respect to Arsenal Fan TV's Robbie for being consistent in damnation of diving. It is what it is. Cheating. So fair play there. And Hababa
The
Jajaja.
last time he gets his comment read out.
Paul is right in this one. Diving's a trick. Only skilled players know how to use it.
I think, yeah, exactly. I think it's done, when it's done badly, you should be punished
get-
for it.
yeah.
Because if you're getting caught, you're not diving right, are you?
Let's
Phil
go and
Neville.
get Dynamo playing up front for us. You know what I mean? If it's a trick, yeah.
So, okay, well, we'll move it on. Flav, do you want to throw something in that you dislike about the modern game?
we covered a lot in the first section, but I think the way the globalization of the sport, while I fully welcome every fan of the game from overseas, and the Fighting Cock is benefited massively from American fans
Are
especially.
you playing for time here, mate?
No, I'm not. I'm saying that I think that the focus now in the Premier League certainly is very much overseas, and I think matchday going fans are kind of have been left behind a little bit.
You're saying that, you know, it's all well and good. We need the fans for the atmosphere, but when you're talking about, let's say Liverpool as an example, you can only put 45,000 people inside the building to actually watch it, but there might be 2.5 million who actually are fans watching it around the game, around the world.
Well, one of the
they're being targeted.
No, I think a matchday fans being targeted directly or impacted directly because there's a secondary ticket market, which essentially legalised touting. So you had a Everton StubHub.
Yeah.
We've got that at Spurs still. This is a system that allows, if the game's sold out, a season ticket holder at Spurs to put it on the market for whatever amount they like. After pressure from Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust and fan groups like the Fighting Cock, they managed to convince the club to cap it at £200. But essentially, these tickets are being bought up by overseas ticket touts, who then charge domestic fans. A lot of it's happened as domestic in Norway. A lot of up to £2,000 for a game because they're willing to go and see it. Partly because their football's so bad, but the market, the global market for the Premier League product is so intense and so sought after that there are going to be ways for clubs to exploit their own supporters, and that's what's happening with the secondary ticket market. And you know, I was close to the point of not going to Tottenham again, like boycotting on my own. I'm pretty sure I would have been the only one, but boycotting
this season
on that issue, because how can secondary ticket market exist? It's legalised.
It is legalised,
and it's allowed to just play out.
Yeah, well, I've had this conversation. I've actually sat down with StubHub because I had made a big fuss of it when we got the deal, to the point where the Everton head of communications actually called me out on Twitter to. Yeah, he didn't last long on the job after that. Let's put it that way. He didn't. Yeah. He called me out on Twitter, and let's say I got the backing of the fans.
You don't call Ped out on Twitter. Come on, regular viewers should know that.
So he didn't last very long in the job, and I got a sit down meeting with StubHub at the ground, and I asked them basically what happens if it's the last game of the season, you're playing the team who are about to win the league, because it's happened before. One of our fans thinks, well, it happened at Man United. It happened at Man United. Played at Goodison. They won 2-0. They won the lead. They got the trophy there. I said, what happens if it's a Nottingham game for us? A fan thinks, well, I can get my season ticket out of this game for next season and go on holiday. Someone are bound to pay it. They get to the seat. They end up winning it. The person sitting next to them thinks, hang on. Ends up having a bit of a fight. You've got to come back the next season, sit in that seat, and they were like, what do you mean? I was like, well, this is a moral issue. What's a moral issue? It never come into their heads about this before, because it's an American thing. To them it's like, well, only so many people can go, so we're entitled to pay the most we can, and that's the way they think of it. They don't think about it like we're football fans. Everton fans have been conned into it slightly, because you can also, a lot of people are selling their tickets for like say £20, can't get to this game, I'll throw it on StubHub. It works that way. But just for that one occasion we've seen at Merseyside derbies, it causes murder amongst your own fans. I'll sell my ticket for the derby for £300. Well, you're ripping off your own fans. Yeah, so what? It's allowed. For the record, it does it does work in the reverse. There are times where you get tickets under face value. But why can't the club just, and I think Liverpool have done this, just set their own one up?
Yeah.
Where it's a ticket exchange.
Arsenal have got a ticket exchange.
Yeah, just have a ticket exchange. I think Celtic have got a really good one as well, where they just say, right, if you want to put your ticket underneath, that's fine, but you're not going above what you've paid for the ticket. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, Arsenal do have that.
Yeah. Just if you joined us and you're wondering what the hell's going on, we're doing a live show discussing the things about modern football that are the major problems that affect fans across football. Currently discussing, as brought up by the lads, StubHub and tickets being sold for over.
They're not the only ones, by the way.
As an example, other ticket exchange programs are available, probably. But yeah, things like that. Obviously, let us know your thoughts on that. We've also discussed the issues with diving so far, which is not going to make me many friends. Michael Owen being the worst co-commentator in the history of football ever, and obviously the amount of money in the modern game. Keep your suggestions for topics coming in. Chris is over on social media at the moment. He'll be reading out a new one as and when he gets some interesting ones in. Robbie, do you want to throw one into the mix?
I think my one's got to be the whole on atmosphere. You know what I mean? I go to every ground around the country, and there is definitely a real problem with atmospheres at ground. I mean, all right, yeah, you go to Arsenal versus Tottenham, Arsenal versus Liverpool, it's a given, the atmosphere is going to be
absolutely
great. But what I find, like at Arsenal, and I see it with a lot of other clubs that I go to as well, is that the fans nowadays are not like they used to be back in the day where, they're up for it. Only the away fans are up for it and make a lot of noise. Invariably, most of the home fans are very quiet. And I think some of that is down to many factors, which is due to modern football. One of them we know, of course, is the standing issue, which I know is very sensitive to you guys at Liverpool, but that's still an issue. There is a sort of safe standing methods now that are used in Germany that are very effective, that are very safe, and I think it is time to trial some of those methods over here in England, because you've got a lot of fans, particularly younger fans. They want to stand and they want to jump around and they want to.
Listen, I can't debate. And it's definitely a big debate for probably it deserves its own. But I will agree that you still stand at the big games.
Yeah.
And it's when it's loads more dangerous to be stood in seating. And I would agree the atmosphere is always better. And that's it. My only thing I think with the way it's gone, and I'll come to you on this, Flav, is that we always talk about getting more young people in the grounds and whatever. I think a lot of people go to football these days though to spectate, not participate. And I think and you see it on the Cop a lot, is that I think in days gone by, if you get right at the back in like the singing section as it were, you realise 15 minutes has gone and you've not really watched the match. You've been singing constantly, because I don't think you can actually sing at the top of your voice and give the game your full attention. More often than not, you see what happens in modern football now is you start singing, you're like, yeah, and then a chance happens and you go, what were we doing? Where were we? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm back into the song. But I think more people these days go to take in the football rather than they go and go
back in the day, fans used to get behind their team. Now, I find that fans get behind the team when they're winning.
Yeah.
Or when they're doing well, but they're not behind the team like how they used to be back. And I said there's many factors. The standing one's one, because, you got stewards, some of them at Arsenal. I mean, luckily for me, the section that I sit in, everybody stands anyway. But there's other sections that I've sat in at Arsenal. As soon as you stand up...
Did they generally stand in executive boxes?
I wish. Right, but as soon as you stand up in certain parts of the Emirates, you've got stewards on your case telling you to sit down or you'll be gone.
Yeah.
So, that's an issue. All right, people blame the sort of makeup of fans now, which there's not enough young fans. They're the ones that are going to create the atmosphere.
This came back from, and I'm sure at the time it had the right reasons at heart, but after Hillsborough, there was the Taylor report which called for a gentrification of football support, and you can understand the reasoning for it. That everything was in disarray and there was no right or wrong answer. It was just, we need to do something. But the fallout of that was essentially the formation of the Premier League. It was the attempts to remove working class fans out of the game. People that use going to football as an opportunity to vent and to vocalise and to get all the raw emotions that are built up over that week. And I know it's a cliche, but it's true, as most cliches generally are. But and what's actually happened is that there's a new breed of fan. And I've physically seen this happen, because I used to go with my old man, who was that working class man, who's now made himself some money over his life and can afford to go to football and doesn't really have to worry about these sort of things. So my dad has been that transition, has been that gentrification. But local support, we would be very passionate about their club. And I'm not saying that people that don't live in Tottenham aren't going to be as passionate as local supporters, because all of the local supporters in Tottenham support Arsenal and Man United anyway, because Sky Sports tell them to. Yeah. Sky Sports say this is
not called Sky Sports telling them, but anyway, move on.
Whatever, Robbie. So there's Sky Sports are saying to them, the top four is the only thing that's important. This is what success is. Instead of saying, actually, football's about your community. It's about what this club means to the local area, what it does for the local people, and the importance it has on their lives. And so that they can, when you go inside that ground, you're going to be passionate, you're going to be loud, and you're going to tell the other lot who's just turned up, this is our manor and our patch, and you're not going to get out without a few songs being sung at you. Yeah.
Right. Does this not all come back to the price that you're paying for your ticket in the first place? That's where it all comes from. I think it stems from this thing where people expect to be entertained because they're paying a lot of money, and that's what I feel it comes from. When you used to go and you used to enjoy it on the Saturday afternoon and you didn't pay 50, 60 quid, there wasn't that expectancy on it, and I think that's where it's all come from. So again,
the mindset has changed.
I think there's loads of different reasons. I think you mentioned there your dad. I mean, my dad stopped going the minute the seats were put in the Gladys Street. That was it. That was the end of him. And I think it's been gradual. I mean, like the Taylor report is just load of nonsense, really. It isn't just an excuse to just get rid of working class people. The only thing it said was that tickets shouldn't go up, which they did. Sky and the Premier League used as an excuse. Safe standing, I think, should be brought into football.
You say that, but to Taylor report was when men fencing went out of
it didn't actually deal with actually what was going. It's like Heysel. It was just like, what was the decision? Just ban everyone. It didn't really deal with the situation. Yeah. It just went, well, this is a completely different way of doing it, and that's what we'll do. It didn't actually deal with the situation. Yeah. And what we've seen is, we've seen more money pumped into the game, which again, like you've just said, it's like the tickets go up, so you suddenly you want to start watching the game more and more. But then there's loads of other factors, like there's social factors, like some of the people you go to the game with, you mightn't see them all week. Yeah. So but you don't go to the pub anymore before the game. So for the first 15 minutes, you haven't chat about what you've been doing for the last couple of weeks because you haven't seen them. Yeah. There's so many factors involved. You're watching the game now, and your concentration is taken away by things like social media. You know how many times you've been at the game, you can rerun a situation on your phone straight away. Was that a penalty? It was a penalty.
Maybe you just don't get enough people in Goodison Park because we don't get a phone signal.
We can't get a reception at Arsenal.
I can get it perfectly on my provider, gents. You get all those factors into the game. You watch how many times you get a free kick and a penalty, and you're watching people watching it through the back of a phone rather than being in the moment.
The only thing I would say though,
literally never. No one does that at Anfield.
Well, I've seen the iPads, so...
The only thing I would say though, right, is that we do have to remember that with football, it does have to move on as well. Because I also remember that back in the day, football, the stadiums are horrible.
Well, I was going to say, people tend to look back at the 80s and go, wasn't it wonderful?
It wasn't.
Football in the 80s was fucking horrific.
Yeah, it was not wonderful.
I was there.
There were things about the 80s, like the atmosphere was blinding. But the stadiums were terrible. For me, as a black guy who used to go to football, the racism was horrendous. There was a lot of really, really bad things about it. But what I'd like us to do is take some of those good things, like the atmosphere,
exactly,
and bring that back into modern day football. Because there's a lot of good. Even though we're saying about modern day football, I think there's a lot of good things about modern day football.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you can take your kids and not fear them dying when you take them to the football.
Let's bring back a few of those things. Let's bring and marry it up so
that's what I'm saying about the Taylor report, though. It didn't. It sort of just said, well, we've got this problem, so we're just going to get rid of everything.
You know what it is?
It's like
going, there's an alcohol problem in the country. Well, what we'll do is we'll just put the price up on alcohol enough so that people can't afford to get drunk.
Let's just tax sugar.
What it's done was instead of taking people out of pubs and onto street corners and parks and all that kind of stuff.
Let's tax sugar instead of educating people on the dangers of it, or actually telling people to get off the fat arses.
I'll tell you what's the best thing about the atmosphere, and it's something that MLS does, and I think MLS show might have put the tweet out. I don't know what ground it was, but it was like you were about to enter the supporters section or something like now. Yeah. Expect to sing.
Sounders, wasn't it?
The Sounders, and expect to chant, sing, jump up and down, and if you're not prepared for that, then you're not in the right part.
Some
of the
clubs
ground,
in MLS allow you to take flares in. Could you imagine that here?
Yeah.
You get arrested.
It's so unfashionable, it's ridiculous.
Apart from that rugby league, they love it.
I got it.
Thanks, Chris.
I didn't laugh hard.
At Tottenham, we set up something called the 1882 movement, which was about bringing back, for select games, I mean, the atmosphere at Tottenham, it's a really dodgy issue for me to talk about because the atmosphere at Tottenham is good on its day. It's fantastic. White Hart Lane, one of the best places to be on earth. Against Arsenal the other day, it's obvious, it's going to be that way. But, Europa League games when you're playing Caribag,
Sheriff,
or Maribor, or Sheriff, you've never heard of before you got drawn against them, you can understand the kind of apathy towards
what
that
about
game.
If you're playing, say, Sunderland at home?
Well, it's the same. It's the same as poor.
Stoke or
but
something.
We set up,
want to offend
basically everyone but Arsenal.
No. But
I'm
just trying to make the point that, like, if you're playing a team where all your fans expect that, we're supposed to beat these lot.
Absolutely.
But we set up. You're right. We set up the 1882 in order to bring some atmosphere back to those Europa League ties. But we found that there were fans inside the blocks that we kind of agreed to stand in that hadn't signed up to it. They didn't know about it, and they weren't there for that. They were there to watch their game. So I think a solution to this is working with the clubs, and this is what we're trying to do in the new stadium, is working with the clubs to get like-minded fans together. Here's a section, and I don't want to use the term singing section, right? Because it's kind of horrendous.
It's for Palace fans, isn't it?
But do you know what?
No, but there's nothing wrong with. But it's a
works.
branding thing. You call it the ultras section. Everyone goes, "Whoa, the ultras!" Like,
Well, I just
Being a coach out.
I think for English, I think that ultras is a kind of
it comes with the
pejorative
tone,
term because English people are not used to it. It isn't part of our football culture, and it's always going to attract criticism and people laughing at it. But what we need is a kind of general, like a Borg type, Star Trek reference here. I don't watch Star Trek, but I know what it is. Is this a general understanding of that this area is where
Wouldn't that be where a safe standing section would come in?
Absolutely.
Because it's a touchy subject, but I think enough time has gone over now where we can start talking about it as adults and say it works in Germany. It's something that the fans love. It can be done. We just need to stop tiptoeing around it and have a proper conversation about it. It has been done. Maybe we need the likes of Celtic to get it to. They do it, then maybe it'll start trickling into our game.
You know what the thing about it is that the safe standing thing. We might as well touch on it briefly, but keep your suggestions coming in. By the way, we've got Chris. We'll actually start reading some of that with the second one. We all stop talking for long enough to do it. But on the safe standing thing, I genuinely think Liverpool Football Club should lead the conversation on that, because there'd be nothing worse than it to happen and Liverpool to not be in the conversation. Because for a start, because if it comes back and everyone else has got it and we've not entered into that conversation out of a blind, we're not even going to discuss it. Liverpool Football Club could end up getting left behind on something, which I don't want for a start. But also, who's better positioned to it? Consult with the families, you know what I mean, and all that. Be sensitive on it. But Liverpool have got to. They can't. I don't think they can afford to get left behind.
Let's be honest. Plus, we're getting to the time now where the inquiry is going to be finishing soon. We're going to get the exact details. And once we've got the exact details, if they come out like we think they'll come out, then it's nothing really to do with the standing. That place was a death trap. But if you've got the real facilities and they, then there shouldn't be any problem with that. I mean, but like you've just said, someone asked Bill Kenwright at an Everton AGM, and he just went, "I wouldn't even entertain it because," and you're thinking, well, no, but let's be a little bit more grown up about the situation. It's something that actually can work.
I think choose your words a bit more carefully in that instance. I don't think it's about being more grown up, is it? But I think it's about being a bit more subjective in some way. But then it's a very hard thing to do from a Liverpool perspective and this city perspective. Being subjective is very difficult on something that's such an emotive.
Plus, he kind of lived through it, and in terms he's aware of it. He's aware at the time.
Yeah, but I think that's just that's for me that kind of comment. I'm not having a go at him. That's playing to the gallery. We've had discussions in this city. The guy who actually wants to see it in, he had a roadshow and he brought it to the Sandon, didn't he? And
John Dutch. Yeah.
Liverpool fans were there and they were in favour of it, but because it is such a touchy subject, you actually need someone to say, right, we are going to have a discussion about it.
The hope is that, you're right, once everything's, once it's all done, the inquiries and stuff, they'll be able to separate the disaster from the football to some extent, you know what I mean? Because it was a policing issue and it was a safety issue, as much as anything else. It wasn't like, because people still link it with it was fans, you know what I mean? I think that's it's still too interweave, but actually I don't really want to. I think we'll do this in due course. Chris, have you got anything for us?
On the safe standing stuff, Sam Harrison said the only reason against safe standing is because of incidents in the past. They rightly serve as a warning, but we are now living at a time when we can organise it safely and securely.
I think it's a decent point. I think, like I say, and it comes back to, for me, is that I do stand at football matches.
Yeah, of course.
And as I say, it's only going to take one incident in that, and people get hurt, and there'll be the question will be why. If that's happening anyway, why is more being done?
I don't know about you, but I've been at the game where you've all been standing, especially the big games, and it only takes one person to push it, and once you get off balance by hitting that chair in front of you,
you're toppled.
I
think with safe stand, I think the movement towards that has become so significant that it's inevitable that it will happen in England. I don't think that it won't. Clubs are designing stadiums now with safe standing in mind. I know Tottenham are putting provisions for rail seating should this happen. When I say I know, I heard from a reliable source, but if Tottenham are listening and that's not true, don't shout at me. I'm pretty sure it's true. The FC United, I know in the lower leagues, they've got standing. I think it's happening. I think the general...
It will take someone like Celtic, though. Yeah. Obviously, not in England, but if they do it and it shows that it can be done, listen, the clubs they don't want it because they probably don't feel like they can control the people.
Well, because I actually said this at a thing the other week. Football is still terrified of fans. Every element of football are terrified of what fans will do, and there's still that fear because it's like being able to drink in the stadiums and stuff like that, which is still ridiculous that you can't have a bevy in your seat when you can have it 10 feet away underneath. But, and yet the rugby, at the cricket and all that. And obviously, it's because everyone's terrified that all football fans are going to turn into lunatics when they've had a drink and whatever.
Rugby fans
absolutely. Rugby fans
won't.
For drinking sensibly, absolutely.
And there's no chance they'd set off flares or start fighting amongst children.
No. Chris, have you got any light-hearted ones you can...
Something a little bit... I wouldn't say it's light-hearted, but it's a little bit away from that topic. Aaron Jones on Twitter, @AaronJones. The FA constantly failing to implement the B-team system. Young British players develop slower and they wonder why. I thought it was really interesting.
We did this on a Ball Street show a couple of years ago on 451 about the B-teams, because I think Rafa Benitez had gone on about it a bit, about how the top clubs should have B-teams in the lower leagues to help feed it, which... And there was still about doing League 3, wasn't there, which was going to be the B team.
I don't like that idea.
I don't want either of those things.
Not with the clubs. Yeah, that would kill half of the clubs that we've got in this country. Yeah,
I like the idea of clubs having tighter partnerships with some of those teams. That would probably work. We're seeing it more and more of players going on loan. I think if we had tighter partnerships, that would work. When you first asked the question there, Chris, I was thinking of the national team.
Well, that's a good point. Bring back the England B team, because that was hilarious.
I just think that was brilliant. It was a really good step, and you would play against lesser teams. No, I thought it was. I thought it was. I thought it was a good step, and sometimes it used to be able to weed out players that I'm too good for the B team. Well, if you're too good for the B team, then you're not.
Chris Sutton.
Yeah.
You're basically talking about Chris Sutton. But I'm sure younger viewers might not get that. Look it up. Chris Sutton refused to play for England B, never played for England.
I'm sure there's plenty of others though that never publicly come out. But I used to think that was a good
I enjoyed it. Again, just to put this into context for people who might not know, but for younger viewers, the England B team was basically all the players who were English who weren't good enough to play for the England team used to get together every now and again and play some friendlies. So Liverpool used to have a lot of players in that. We used to have Neil Ruddock used to play for that team with John Scales, and so. I loved them. I thought they were great. But then I used to love the old reserve league as well. But how many get senior players playing with a bunch of kids, and Duncan Ferguson would play there every couple of months on his comeback game and what have you.
We've got going back to the B team for players. For Premier League teams. That would have a horrendous effect on football and would really show the elite doing what they want. And that's why it's important for fans of big clubs like the ones like us, and apart from you, Ped. But sorry,
how many trophies have you won?
Probably less.
Fuck all compared to us.
I'm sorry, mate. I'm sorry.
Get your fucking clown shoes on.
What was I? Don't even know what I was talking about. No. It's important for us to say no, that isn't acceptable, because teams like Bury, who are going to be directly impacted by
it's going to have to be me to put a counterpoint across here.
You can't, not on an ethical
Listen, this
level.
man likes diving.
Go on.
Right. So,
half and half scarves, discuss.
No, half and half scarves, scissors, discuss.
Except you're in Europe, though, right? That's all right.
It's all right in Europe.
Is it all right in Europe?
It is all right in Europe.
Yeah. What if you play Man United in Europe?
No.
No, the only...
You'd beat them, Paul?
I know, it's true, just do it. But no, the B team thing for me, and again, I look at it from a Liverpool perspective, and you look at the progression of talent. I think it's from that perspective. So we get some good players, they play at academy level. The under-21 level is not good enough. They got rid of the reserve league because there weren't enough games, and they created the under-21 and they made that a proper thing. There's not enough games in it. The standard's not good enough. there's no.
Send them out on loan.
But where you're sending them out on loan to do what? To be managed by
Become
a lower
better players.
quality of coach, a lower quality of manager, to play in worse quality stadiums.
Be careful where you send them out on loan too. Monitor them, monitor the players you
Give me
send out
how
on
many
loan.
players do you send out on loan who come back good enough for your first team? And you've got Coughlin on at the moment,
Harry
but
Kane.
he's the exception rather
Yeah,
than
but
Harry Kane.
how
He was
many
horrendous
of
on
them
loan
would
as
have played in the reserve league? You could argue the same thing.
But this is the position of the reserve. What I'm saying, there needs to be either there needs to be something B team done or or the reserve thing.
But the point
What
is
about, it's a completely random one off the top of my head, right? What if you just capped the amount of players clubs could buy? Then there wouldn't be the need for all of that.
Potentially, but I don't think that's the issue, is it? I don't think that our
We-
players haven't...
But when Chelsea are getting they got 37 people out on loan, that's ridiculous. They're never going to be able to
that's to
service
make
all of
money,
those
though,
players
isn't it?
to make
That
them
is
better.
that's actually a different subject. But we had Ross Barkley sent on loan to Leeds, and Warnock was the manager, and he wouldn't play him. And this was 6 months before Martinez took over, so before he become a first team player. And he said, "Oh, I'm not playing him because he hasn't got the he hasn't got the responsibility." So basically, that obviously Neil Warnock wouldn't play him in a free role. I think he wanted him to knuckle down, and that's the problem, isn't it? You send them out of teams who might use them in the wrong way. So I think that's where football clubs have got to get better links with other clubs. And it would work both ways, I think. Okay, you'd probably those lower teams, I think, we're going to be taken over by the bigger teams. But it's going to work hand in hand because we've seen how many are struggling.
You're talking about the betterment of Liverpool or Tottenham or Arsenal, when, in my opinion, this is a wider issue about the betterment of football.
Exactly. But I think that's what I'm saying. It would work hand in hand. You'd have teams in the lower leagues who are struggling at the moment, who would have the help of players on loan, which they're doing anyway. But it would work in a better way because you would have almost an official link up. But at the moment, we've got players here, there, and everywhere.
You've got players getting injured on loan at like League One and League Two clubs, and they have to come back to the parent club to be treated because they don't trust that club to
Imagine
treat
if they had
players.
they had B team league. Let's just look at London, for instance, right? So you got Arsenal, Tottenham, West Ham, right? They've all got B teams. Palace, say, right? Chelsea, they've all got B teams. Yeah, what's going to happen to Leyton Orient? What's going to happen to Brentford?
Well, Leyton Orient took an
QPR?
Example,
They're going to have no chance because
potentially. But
Chelsea's,
what about that game? Let's look at it in terms of attendances and stuff like that. Who's going to get what game's going to get more greater numbers? Leyton Orient taking on whatever Yeovil or something, or Leyton Orient taking on Arsenal's B team. And I know it sounds pathetic, and I hate saying the words out loud.
But it's just going to kill those teams. Yeah. It's going to kill Orient. It's going to kill Brentford. I mean,
there's caps on how far these B teams can rise through the leagues as well. So they couldn't rise among League One or League Two. I'm not sure. Yeah. So essentially, what you'd get is a team finishing 7th, maybe if there's 6 or 7 B teams, finishing 7th and getting promoted, ill-equipped to join that second that league.
What about when all the money teams like ourselves go off and play in the European Super League? Can we have B team in the Premier League then?
Well, this is the thing. You've got one team, one club for the Premier League for the Football League. And that's it.
I don't often agree with him, but I have to agree with him on this. Right? Yeah,
I can't see how you can't.
You see? What great! This is great fun, isn't it? We've got Spurs fans in our
club together.
We've got Evertonians and Liverpoolians.
Because you know, what I mean,
I feel we might all have to go for individual showers once this is done. But
B League just kills off, and you could imagine those teams like Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United. They're going to have all the best kids as well. So they're probably going to the Championship and walk it as well.
The thing is, though, all the elite clubs, well, I say all the elite clubs, Real Madrid have got one, Barca have got one, Bayern Munich have got a B team, haven't they? The top teams in Germany have got it. I don't know enough about the lower leagues of those leagues to be able to tell you whether
But we've got an established, haven't we? We've got an established clubs that have been around for hundreds of years. In those, I think it would kill them.
I would oppose anything that made the clubs at the top of the Premier League stronger than they already are. Genuinely.
What if you're one of those clubs?
Yeah, well, we are. We're second in the league. We're obviously one of them. But I wouldn't want any rule change that made us stronger. The financial fair play, in my opinion, was a load of nonsense.
I understand that's
modern
really
football,
noble, but
it's the way I feel genuinely.
It's just weird.
No, it ain't weird. It's not weird because ultimately a game doesn't have an upper echelon that is unattainable by all clubs. Isn't a competition.
There will be one of them soon, but
we've done. But are we doing that already with things like technology? We've not even touched on that. We haven't really got time to do that today. But we've already tiered we've already started tiering football, haven't we? With with technology
Yeah,
and what
yeah.
have you. So, what's the difference if it's happening anyway? You don't want to be left out when you don't want to be off the top.
But how guilty would you
We need
feel
to
though?
fight against it as for football.
But
fans.
how guilty would you feel though if your B team destroyed someone else's club? No matter what you think, or that's their club, and because of your selfishness,
I could probably.
yours.
Yeah, no, I know. I
And your
agree. I agree.
diving
That
shenanigans.
listen. I give you. Look, you're right, because if ultimately Liverpool's B team,
Your B team just going around diving everywhere.
if Liverpool's B team killed off Tranmere Rovers, say that, I wouldn't. That would be a sad day for football.
But that's what would happen.
Maybe it wouldn't.
That would happen.
Maybe it would.
And as I said, in London, teams like Brentford, Leighton Orient.
But West Ham are already killing Leighton Orient, aren't they? So
yeah, it's true.
So they've
Chris, have you got any comments on that? I think we're going to have to wrap this up shortly.
Yeah, Cal says FA Cup should never be disrespected by B teams, best cup in the world. It's already disgraced by teams changing out their best teams, complete disrespect to lower league opposition. For a bit of context, there's been a massive argument on the comments about people using the B teams in the FA Cups and stuff. Just for my little 2 pence worth on it, I've said for a couple of years now, you should always put your squad in for like the League Cup and the FA Cup, and that way you can hopefully get rid of this changing out your teams. If you want to play young players in the League Cup, for example, I think you name your squad at the beginning of the season, you put a 20-man squad or 25-man squad in or something, and then if you get to the final, those kids don't get pulled out. And for me, that's a way of safeguarding their future and their development as football players.
It's definitely an interesting one. We this has gone really long and really well. I'm pleased. There's probably about 70 million topics that we've missed. To be perfectly honest, in fact,
here's
one little one left.
Go on, here's a really good one. At hello_bellow10 on Twitter. With all the money in English football, why can't we attract the world's best talent?
Because the Premier League is not as good in reality as it's sold to us.
I think it's because it's too competitive compared to the likes of Spain.
it's not warm enough.
It's definitely not warm enough.
No, but yeah, that's actually a really good point, that, isn't it? Because if you go to Barcelona or Real Madrid, odds are you're going to win some trophies, aren't you, when you go there? Whereas you go to the Premier League, and let's face it, how do you pick between Man United, Chelsea, Arsenal? Did I say Man City? There's
I don't know, but Lukaku's going to have too soon. So
I honestly think that the way in which the money's going in the Premier League, that in a few years' time they will start to get those players, because there are a lot of, take for instance all the top South American players, they grow up dreaming of playing for Barcelona or Real Madrid. That's like their dream. Yeah. But I can see, with the amount of money that's coming into the Premier League now, that they're going to be able to start shifting those players away, that they start coming over to here as well.
You know what?
In a few years' time.
You know what I think? I think this summer will be the change of that. I think we'll see, because Pep Guardiola's in the league now, Klopp's in the league. There'll be one or two others. I saw your face.
That's so weird.
You don't need your face.
I was thinking of our new manager.
This is what I mean. I think there's going to be some top level managers.
I'd love you to sign Arteta.
Why would we sign Arteta?
I just love it. Bring all the money in and then go and sign Arteta.
Sign Rooney and they're getting relegated because he doesn't care.
You're not even here for your opinion.
Does anyone actually
just
want
man and mouse?
Payjack News.
Do you have a little go at me clothes? That's what we normally do.
Do you want Neymar?
I don't want but
Messi. I don't want to see Messi play in England. He's going to be brilliant. I don't want to play against him.
No, I am absolutely devastated that Zlatan is even being linked with West Ham. West Ham shouldn't even be in the same galaxy as Zlatan.
No, Zlatan's rubbish anyway, mate. But
not rubbish.
The fact of the matter is, you're right. I don't think it's about buying Messi's in, but I think it's about, let's use Suarez as an example. Suarez and Bale were the last two best players in the Premier League, and they weren't that when they joined the league. The league made them that. And then they've gone on. Well, maybe, yeah, but you look at it now, and is Aguero should be that, but I don't think he quite is. I think it's more about the building the talent and keeping them, rather than it always being why you've got to go to Barcelona.
Well, here's a question.
I think a few years ago, though, Aguero would have went to Real Madrid or Barcelona, but now, because of the amount of money that Manchester City have
destroyed them in the Premier League,
they can turn around and they can say, well, hey, you ain't going nowhere. You're going to stay for your 5-year contract. And they can then persuade him then to do an extension. And that's why I feel that, at the moment, Barcelona, Real Madrid, they're great propositions because they pay great money, obviously, and also that they've had this history. But I think with the amount of money that's coming in the Premier League will start to attract those top elite players. And you already see, with just like what we call regular clubs now, like a West Ham, the players that they're buying. you know, it's such a
I
competitive
think the question
league
is really though, who out there who isn't playing for a Champions League team is really, you know, shining.
Yeah.
I don't think there's that many top players around at the moment. I just don't think there is.
Maybe that's the case. I think it's the problem you've got ultimately is that Barcelona and Real Madrid are seen as as your destination as a football. It's like the goal
like you've made
movies,
it,
isn't
it's a
it?
pinnacle.
Imagine having this conversation in Italy. You'd be devastated.
But it used to be Italy in the 90s.
It used to
didn't
be
it?
AC Milan. Nobody wants to go AC Milan now.
Exactly. And
It used to be.
the thing of it now is that, like, you know, if you leave Barcelona and Real Madrid, it's because you weren't good enough to play for Barcelona or Real Madrid, which is sad. But you know, look at like Alexis Sanchez. He's a very, very good player, but he's not in the bracket of the three guys that have ended up as Barcelona's strike force. And hopefully that changes in the Premier League. But it actually feels at the minute, and I think it might change this summer, but it does feel like the Premier League's actually going through the way. There's a spreading out of the time. Yeah.
This has been the most enjoyable football season that I can remember in a long time.
Why that might be.
That might be to do with Tottenham
Yeah.
Bears.
Chris, have you got any final comments?
Yeah, I asked for one thing that would improve modern footy from a little bit more of a fun perspective.
Okay.
And thank you for bringing my son. Says every match, each team needs to play one fan from the stand. Well, that would be quite fun.
Oh, yeah, how's about we expand that? Because we've always talked about how you do
you
extra time
imagine
and penalties, and there's been talk of taking a player off every 5 minutes.
Replace him with a fan.
Replace that player with a fan.
Could
from
you
the
imagine how
pitch?
much how hated that fan would be though?
Imagine you
Could you imagine? No, just for playing. Why is that knobhead playing? Why isn't it
Do
me?
you remember the kid who threw the bloody beach ball on at Sunderland in that Liverpool game? Like, literally, I'm amazed he's still alive. Imagine being the guy who comes on and misses the sitter at the end that loses the game for you. But brilliant.
That is a brilliant
Let's
idea.
defo do that. Go
Can
on,
I just
Chris.
throw a final subject in that we won't actually talk about, but just for Twitter? I've just got this top on in tribute. Johan Cruyff, greatest man involved with football ever. Discuss.
Okay, on Twitter, please, not here.
We had a lot of love in the comments actually for that top.
He is the-
I'm
he is-
not mentioning it. People thought it was really,
He is the greatest
really
man.
good of you not to mention it.
He is the greatest man. He is the greatest man in football ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Chris,
Yeah.
any more of those?
A Chris Pajak 2017 calendar would be nice. That's actually in the pipeworks.
That is in the
keep
way.
your eyes
Actually,
peeled, it's
there is a
coming,
prison
trust me.
edition.
Can I make a comment?
It's got a nipple on. Go on.
Against Modern Social Club. There's an Arsenal scarf up there. There's an Arsenal shirt there, and an Arsenal stuffed toy.
Flav, do you
Can
own
I
a Tottenham
point out-
shirt? Flav, do you own a Tottenham shirt?
What? That doesn't mean three other. What is this?
That was a no, yeah?
Do you want me to feel welcome?
Can I
here
just
or
point
not?
out, though-
Is that he's doing? Has he brought them along and just stuck them up
Probably,
there?
yeah.
I'll be honest, I found that Arsenal scarf in a charity shop for 50p, and I thought it looked cool.
Disgusting.
So, and the rest...
To be fair, though, I mean, Harchester have won more things than Spurs have won in the last few years. So
And the, what was that shirt again, Ped?
that is from
Rica?
Costa Rica. That was the team Brian Oviedo played for. But it's sponsored,
Also more
the sponsors
successful
got
than
Bimbo.
Spurs.
So
you go.
Do you want another kicker for me? That is the shirt that Leicester City beat us in '99 in the League Cup.
It's probably not.
It is.
It's probably not. It's probably not that actual shirt.
No,
is
it's
it?
that one.
Oh, I've got a good one here,
Go
Paul,
on,
before we
go on,
finish.
wrap it up.
James Richard Bennion says, a dive in the penalty box is a penalty at the other end.
Ah, yeah, winner.
That's how you stop diving in football.
Winner.
I
Okay.
like that.
Yeah, keep your suggestions in for the things that do your head in about modern football and beyond. And then if you've got a few ideas for how you think football could be fixed as well, the more random the better. In the comments, tweet in at Ball Street and not subscribe.
don't say fan
Follow.
channels.
What?
Don't say fan channels.
More fan channel. Of course, check out the rest of the content on the Ball Street. We'll be back with more Social Club live in a month's time. We'll be back with the normal Social Club as per every single Monday. No, this is Tuesday because bank holidays fucked us. But yeah, we'll be back next week with more Social Club. Cheers.